Hi everyone. This video is a book review about a book that I have selected in honor of Women's History Month, and the title of this book is The Women's Guide to Total Self-Esteem: The 8 Secrets You Need to Know. And it was written by Stephanie Dillon, PhD, with M. Christina Benson, MD. Now, this book has been in my collection for about 2 years or less. I would say 3 at the longest. It's a very short book. It's under 200 pages, but it is chock full of information that I think would be beneficial to the reader. This book is useful for people who either are a woman or you have women in your life and you're trying to understand how their self-esteem develops, or learn how you can assist them in having a higher self-esteem. I selected this book in particular because I noticed that there is yet another cycle of women focusing on their self-care and their own self-development, but one issue that you have to overcome on that journey is dealing with your own personal self-esteem. So before I get into the book and also share with you some of my personal stories of self-esteem, I wanted to tell you a little bit about the authors, which are Stephanie Dillon and Christina Benson. So these pictures in the back are old pictures of them. This is Stephanie Dillon and this is Christina. So I'm going to start off with Stephanie. It says Stephanie W. Dillon, so I think W stands for Wentworth, is a clinical psychologist with 25 years of experience as a psychotherapist and teacher. Dr. Dillon appears frequently in the television, radio, and print media. She has produced self-esteem workshops for federal, state, and local governments, and for corporations, school districts, colleges, and universities. In addition, she is a consultant to corporations and school districts. I tried to look online to find a website about her, but I could only find LinkedIn and some mentions of her on other sites. On the site topnpi.com, it says she specializes in clinical psychology in Reno, Nevada, and has over 47 years of experience in the field of medicine. She graduated from the University of California, San Francisco School of Medicine with her medical degree in 1976. So she's currently 80 years old right now. I don't know if she's still practicing or if she's retired from practicing. Dr. Stephanie W. Dillon is licensed to practice by the State Board in Nevada. And I literally don't know if this is old or if this is current, but it talks about her accepting new patients in her medical office. Now, Christina Benson, it says that she is a psychiatrist and psychoanalyst in private practice in Los Angeles. She is affiliated with UCLA and has been involved in the supervision and education of medical students, psychiatric residents, and psychoanalytic trainees. Dr. Benson is a nationally known Tavistock trained consultant on group process and has contributed to a monthly column in the San Francisco Examiner. So it looks like she may also still be practicing. I just found a little bit more about her online, but I could not find a website of hers. So she's currently in California, according to health.usnews.com. She received her medical degree from the University of California, San Francisco, and has been in practice for more than 20 years. And on this website, it lists her clinical interests and also her subspecialties. Her specialty is psychiatry, Psychiatrists diagnose and treat mental illness such as depression, anxiety disorders, substance abuse, and schizophrenia. Most psychiatrists rely on a mix of medications and psychotherapy. So these two women are very specialized, very talented, very intelligent women. And I think anybody reading this would be in good hands reading this book, because not only is it sound, but they share real stories of real patients, and I truly enjoyed that. This book is approximately 22 years old. It was published in 2001 by, where is it? I can't not find. It says New Harbinger Publications or Publishers Group West, but it's 22 years old. So I'm going to share with you a few of the chapters from this book that stood out to me, and also incorporate my own personal stories as I discuss what I have read. So let's start with the introduction. It says, Introduction. Women are traditionally trained to be caring and compassionate, sensitive and responsive to the needs of others. Our world consists, in large part, of doing things for our husbands, children, parents, friends, community, bosses, brothers, uncles, aunts, co-workers, and we often find significant meaning and satisfaction for ourselves along the way, but we also confront the danger of losing or never discovering our real selves. I think that's a very powerful statement to start an introduction with, and I also think it's a very true statement. I'm just basing this off of my own personal experiences and also watching the experiences of other women in my life. Some of the women in my life have gotten their meaning by throwing themselves into motherhood. Some of the women in my life have gotten meaning by throwing themselves into a career. They usually go outside of themselves to get some type of validation, whether it be from the children that they birthed, the people that they married, or the career field that they had, or even the belief system that they have. It says, culture and history tell us we should value ourselves through relationships. We have been taught through the ages that in order to get our needs met, we must follow a societal feminine script, one that requires that we put the needs of others before our own. And she goes into detail, or one of them goes into detail, about the scripts. And when I was reading this, I started having endless flashbacks of different parts of my life, and where I realized what script I was following, or what happened when I did not follow this script in particular. I'm sure I've heard of this concept of the feminine script, but not explained as well as this right here. So this section is called Gender Prison. Men and women both suffer from being handed a historical, cultural script. Following this script in order to be acknowledged, appreciated, and valued creates a situation in which both men and women are sentenced to an indeterminate time in gender prison. So this is the script for women. According to the feminine script, women are supposed to be empathic, I guess, caring, warm, nurturing, patient, sensitive, but not too sensitive, long-suffering, intuitive, selfless, tender, forgiving, trusting, almost a Christ-like job description. If we get angry, we risk being labeled a bitch, or at least bitchy. We are encouraged not to make scenes, to keep quiet, even when we are treated with disrespect. But simultaneously, we are expected to stand up for others, children, family, friends, and even strangers unable to help themselves, and assist others in getting their needs met. We are trained to get our sense of worth and value from our relationships, from what we do for others, and how we make others feel important and special. Hence, many of us believe that if we just follow the script and act feminine, we will be loved and valued. I think this is the script for most women around the world. Like some cultures, they might have a different feminine script, but overall, from what I've read or seen or observed from different groups, I would say this is pretty accurate. I didn't know what was happening anytime I wasn't following the feminine script. I thought I was just acting like myself. Me personally, and I know this is gonna sound really insane, but for the longest time, as far as my identity, I just saw myself as a Black person. I didn't even think of myself as a woman, even though I was a female, even though I was a girl growing into a woman. I never saw myself by my sex. I didn't notice it because there was nothing in my life that I took notice of that was blatantly in my face as much as my sex, as me being a woman. Most of my early problems as a child, all the way up till maybe my early 20s, was all related to race. So how I saw myself was just like, I'm a Black person. And that's how I identified myself. Like, I'm a Black person first, and then I am a woman next. But now, over the past 8 years, it's like things have reversed. Now I see myself as a woman more so because I've had a lot of issues in my life that have been worse than racism for me. I know that sounds crazy, but just my experience as a woman for me has been worse than racism. Really worse. And this is coming from a girl that was run out of her own place by some racists. The experiences I have had as a woman are, I've never been attacked on the street just for being a Black person. I might have been called a name. I might have been, microaggression, but I've never been grabbed. I've never had things thrown at me. I've never had people grab my hair. I've never had people break in my house because I'm Black. It was usually because I'm a woman. So, not saying I'm trying to undermine the Black experience, but this is my own personal experience. I didn't think about womanhood. It wasn't something that crossed my mind because it wasn't something that people in my life put as important. I did not meet that many women who appreciated womanhood and appreciated helping their sisters. I didn't notice that only until I got older. The first person that really stood out to me was this women's history teacher I had in college. And she loved women's history. She would go on and on about women's history and rights and human rights and all sorts of different things. But it didn't cross my mind because I was still like thinking about race at the time. But now that I've gone through these experiences as a woman, I finally understand and empathize with the women in history. Now I know why some of them went absolutely insane. Now I know why some of them took their own life. Now I know why some of them ended up having some type of disorder. I understand that. I overstand that now. And I swear to God, I sincerely apologize to any woman in history or in the past who I just gaslighted because I just didn't understand. I sincerely apologize. But following this script as a woman, this whole script is contradictory. This whole script is insane. How can you do this and do that? You're contradicting yourself. It's almost like you're living a life that's walking on eggshells instead of being a full human being with full human emotions. Now the script for men. According to the masculine script, men are supposed to be aggressive, competitive, objective, controlled, rational, unemotional, strong, powerful, invulnerable, skeptical, tough. Men are encouraged to speak up when they are not treated with respect. Men are taught to stand up for themselves and to protect those less powerful. Men are told not to cry, but that it's okay to be angry. Men are taught to get their self-esteem from what they do and achieve in the world. Men are taught that if they follow their script, they will be admired, even envied, valued, and recognized. Even this script is toxic as heck, because in both scripts, you're creating some type of archetype that really no human being can fit. You're not being your genuine self. You're not having your feelings validated. Whether it's you have to suppress your crying, or you're accused of doing something that you weren't, or you have a personality that doesn't fit either script. I can see why on both sides a lot of people take themselves out, because it is so hard to follow this script unless it is innately inside of you, which most people it is not. It's better to just be a moral human being, have your feelings, validate your own feelings. Like, if you want to cry, cry. If you want to be angry, say so. If you want to follow your dreams, do that. We have to just start living our authentic selves, and that's hard because we really don't know ourselves. We've never had a chance to actually know ourselves. How we learn the script. The feminine script is taught early in life and is powerfully reinforced as girls grow into women. It goes into the history of like studies from the 50s, just all of these gender role behaviors, which I could see how some gender role behaviors may be like, okay, I could see why you have that there just based off of like physical strength or something. I could understand that. But there's just some that you can throw out the window. So, let's see. It says, beliefs that shape us. Cultural and historical beliefs shape how we see ourselves as women and how we are seen. These beliefs can be encouraging and empowering of selfhood, as well as destructive and limiting. We need to develop clarity about the beliefs that determine how we perceive ourselves and are perceived. Only then will we be able to rewrite our scripts in a way that is more supportive and empowering. My early beliefs were shaped by the church and also by race. My story of growing into a woman may be different than another woman's story because all of us have different backgrounds. Some of us are victims of DV. Some of us had SA as a child. Some of us grew up in an elite society and others grew up poor. Some of us are white. Some of us are black. Some of us are something else. I don't know. We might all live in a different country with different rules. But I still think there is some type of commonality that we all share as women in some way, shape, or form. Me growing up in a predominantly white Christian school, I had so many scripts that I had to follow that shaped me as a person. And in the church, now that I'm older, most of the script that I was led to follow was like, you have to follow Christ and you have to get a spouse. Like, you really, 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 really need a spouse, or you need a man in your life. And this was something that stayed on my mind all the way into my mid to late 20s. over the past few years, I've gotten better at it. It's still kind of there, but I developed a sort of neediness for validation. Like I had to be the nicest. I had to be the best Christian. I had to be like the best to get the best guy. And I followed all of these different scripts and got just terrible, terrible results. I have to cover up my body. I have to show a little skin. I don't know. I can't be unequally yoked, but I can't be a Poindexter and just be an introvert. Just like the script I mentioned earlier, there were too many contradictions and it was very, very confusing. They would have been better off telling me, you just need to learn about yourself and love yourself and know that no matter what happens in your life, you are valuable. Nothing can change your value. Not a man, not a woman, not a law, not a thought form. But nobody said that to me. We are defined by how we look, by how closely we approximate the cultural standard of beauty. That standard is an arbitrary and artificial belief, but one that we internalize and then apply to ourselves. How well we succeed or fail is an accident at birth. If you are a woman in 1750, you need to look Rubenesque and amply endowed and curvaceous. In 1920s America, the flapper was the idol, thin, small-breasted, straight up and down. In the 1950s, it was better to be Marilyn blonde and busty, or Sophia dark and voluptuous. In the 1960s, Twiggy was it, thin was in. In the 90s, Kate Moss was the icon, followed by tall, thin, big-breasted blondes. These are some examples I use a lot with women. I meet a lot of women like every single day. I meet so many women through my job that have extreme self-esteem issues. It's so sad. I literally could cry. Like, it's so freaking sad. And I say this speech to them because they don't know how they sound. For example, in here, the author lists, in the early 90s, Kate Moss was the icon. Well, that's one group. Because I feel like in the 90s and the 2000s, with the white standard of beauty, it was thin, thin, thin. With the black standard of beauty at the time, it was like, you had to be thick, you had to be thick, you have to be thick. Over these past 10 years, I've noticed how all of these people getting into the women's minds, trying to get them to destroy themselves just to get an ounce of love, if that makes any sense. Some people say, I'm doing it to make myself feel better, but sometimes I have to ask, why? I meet so many women, especially like black women, that are like, I need to be thick. I need to be thick. And I say, well, why? I don't like trying to like be like, you can't do what you want. But like the way they say it is like it's a desperation. Now some, they want to be thick because they just want to be thick. But most of them, is somebody pressuring them to be thick? Or is somebody talking bad about them being skinny? They'll be like, I need weight gain. I'm like, okay. Is there an underlying issue? Were you sick? No, I just need to gain such and such amount. I'm like, well, you look pretty okay to me. You're trying to pack on pounds for your little skeletal frame, and you're wondering why it's not holding on to you. It's because your body doesn't want any more stress on its already stressed out joints. Like, the weight you have is enough. Why do you need more? Who are you doing it for? You're not a cow. You're not on a freaking auction block. The same with like, I have to be skinny. I have to be skinny. I knew a man who wanted his wife to be so skinny and she couldn't lose the weight because if she lost the weight, she'd be a freaking anorexic. Her body type was not the type that needed to be skinny. She was just naturally thick. If she lost any more, she probably would have ended up in a hospital. And she did. She tried to lose weight, but it wasn't enough weight for him. So if you are having body issues, ask, who am I doing it for? Am I doing it for me? Am I doing it for somebody else? How will this change in my body affect my overall health? I know a couple of years ago, amphetamine, which is like an appetite enhancing syrup, a lot of women were taking that to increase their appetite to get thick and keep the pounds on. But of course, it's banned. I don't know if it's banned in all of the US, but it's banned in a lot of places in the US just due to the side effects. This society is fickle. You're never going to have the same beauty standard. It's going to change. It's going to change. Just like the flappers that didn't want any breasts. Then you had the 80s with the big hair and you wanted breasts. Now it's all about like your behind. Now it's all about your butt. Now you want to get slim again. Now you want big lips. Now you want buccal fat removal. Which one is it? What's it going to be next year? What's it going to be next year? I can look back at some videos of just like video vixens, and all those girls look different. The only thing they really had in common was they had on similar clothes. But most of them had their own body type. Like, I don't know. Ageism. As men age, they are often seen as more distinguished, more experienced, wiser. As women age, they are often seen as dried out old bags, no longer desirable. I feel like I've experienced this too, even though I'm young. You know, I'm like 30, I'll be 34. But I've had some guys try to throw that in my face, even though they thought I was another age when they met me. I've had some guys stop talking to me because they wanted me to be 18 years old. They didn't want somebody in their 30s. They wanted literally somebody who was 14 4 years ago. I'm like, that sounds kind of like a pedo problem, but that's just me personally. I'm just saying. Like, how young do you want to go if you're 40-something years old? I don't understand. I don't know what the society's problem is with aging, but it's really sad, because wouldn't you be happy that you're living longer? Wouldn't you be happy that you've gained experience and wisdom living in your life? You don't have to make all of the crazy mistakes you made as a young person. I think older women are beautiful. They're mysterious, most of them. They have their own self-confidence, but they have people outside of them telling them how to feel about themselves. I didn't really have too many self-esteem issues as I grew up, unless it was race. That was one thing. But as far as like, oh, my body, my teeth, that was something I had esteem issues about. My hair, all of that. But it got worse as I got older, because when social media came, it's like you had to dress this way, you had to have this type of body. It's just very sad. Anyway, the importance of self-esteem. Defining total self-esteem. Your total self-esteem is the combination of how you perceive yourself and the value you place on the multidimensional self you see. In order to have good self-esteem, you have to be able to assess your strengths and weaknesses objectively without expecting yourself to be perfect. Your core self-esteem. Your core self-esteem is in place by age 4. And situational self-esteem is how you are affected by your situation. So your core self-esteem is basically your experiences of growing up as a woman or as a person, and whatever happened mostly during your childhood. Situational self-esteem is basically the ups and downs of life. You may have impaired self-esteem when you are going through a breakup of a romantic relationship, and fabulous self-esteem when you are falling in love. It says with core self-esteem, it's important to understand how your own history affects your total self-esteem, so that you are not blaming and self-critical about the things that weren't your fault. Even if you have made some bad choices, you need to make the punishment fit the crime. You may have abused substances, been promiscuous, stayed in an abusive relationship. Let yourself think about what you would assign as the appropriate punishment for a girlfriend who committed these crimes. Forgiving yourself is so much more difficult than forgiving another. My core self-esteem, I had self-esteem issues about my hair. In one community, I had my hair made fun of. In another community, they're like, you got good hair. And even that didn't help me. I still have self-esteem issues about my hair, even though it's like still flat iron, it's in braids. Because sometimes people will argue with me about where I'm from. Like, I get really sensitive about people that want to question my origins, even though I told them where I'm from. I'm not trying to be mad now. I am still having this relationship with my hair. I like my hair. It's attached to me, so I'm going to have to like it. But it makes me want to hide my hair. Just having people grab my hair, having people be like, oh, you're not black. Oh, look at your hair. Oh, no, you're mixed with something. I'm like, why does it matter? Why does it matter? I've been speaking English to someone, and they don't even know I'm speaking English. They think I'm speaking another language because they're so fixated on hair. That is part of my core self-esteem because I've had issues with that growing up. I've also had issues with like my body. Like, I'm still learning how to accept my body. I'm still a slender lady, but when I was in my 20s, people be like, whoa, you're too skinny. You need to get thicker. You need to get thicker. I had no problem. I had no issue with my body until these guys kept getting in my ear about my body. So I started having issues with that. PCOS, of course, even though I haven't been diagnosed with it, I'm pretty sure I may have that. Even like my brain, I don't know. All these different things have gotten me have built up my core self-esteem. Sometimes people would be like, well, she's doing this, she likes that, she's not black, she's acting white. Or something, because I liked to read, I liked to recite poetry, I liked all sorts of things. I felt I couldn't relate to anyone because everybody had some type of stipulation about what I should be, who I should like, what I should listen to, what I should be doing. But now I've gotten to a point where I can look back on my past and see how I acted in my 20s and my teens. I was trying to seek attention from guys. I was trying to people please people all of the time. I would let people push me around. It didn't matter if they were a boss, or if they were a friend, or if they were a boyfriend. It didn't matter. Now, as I grow, I have to let go of that old identity. It's dead to me now. Now I have boundaries. Now I focus on myself and my whatever I need for myself. A lot of women that I notice sacrifice themselves. They sacrifice their dreams. They think that they aren't beautiful because somebody's in their ear telling them they aren't beautiful. Or they feel they aren't beautiful because people stress them so much the fuck out that they can't even get some sleep. They can't even eat anything. Their hormones are just getting out of whack. They feel less beautiful because they birthed out a whole baby. They could have died birthing out this baby, but people want to make a big deal about their stretch marks, even though they pushed out a whole human being, and you want them to go to work 6 weeks later. Are you crazy? You have to come to the conclusion that nobody will be happy. You are living in this body. This is the body that your soul chose. Whatever you want to do, put it in the healthiest situation and the healthiest form that you possibly can. If you were supposed to look another way, you would have looked another way. You can have fun with your body, but still consider its overall health. Like, don't do too much to it where you're actually putting yourself in danger, or where you're feeling like you need to do all of these things in order to feel beautiful, if that makes sense. Accepting your body when you really hate it. I wasn't even about to turn to this chapter, but I am. This is chapter 3. The objectification of women. The concept of objectification, Fredrickson and Roberts, 1997, introduced the concept of objectification to describe how American culture acts as though we women were only bodies, to the exclusion of all other dimensions of identity. The most damaging result of the objectification of women is that many women self-objectify. We become preoccupied with our own physical appearance, excluding other aspects of selfhood, such as intelligence, compassion, and competence. That is true. Some women get insulted when they have all of these they have all of these accomplishments, and then somebody's like, well, she's ugly. But this lady looks like a surgeon and saved 300 people and could do open heart surgery on you in a minute. But okay, she's ugly. Right. Yeah, that's how it feels. You're only getting one aspect of a woman. A woman is like a diamond. It's so many facets of the woman. She's shining over here, she's shining over there, she's shining over here, and she's shining over there. And you only want one little chip of her instead of the entire diamond. And even if they got that one little chip of her, they still wouldn't appreciate it. There are diamonds being thrown in the trash right now. There are diamonds being treated like they're freaking copper. The damage to self-esteem caused by a distorted body image. Instead of accepting our bodies as they are, many of us begin to hate our bodies for not measuring up to unrealistic cultural ideas. And in this chapter, they share stories about it. And in each chapter also, there are exercises. Looking at childhood photos. So in this exercise, you say, how I thought I looked and how I actually looked. So in this example, how I thought I looked fat and dumpy, but how I actually looked was healthy and strong. I thought I looked too big, not petite, gross. In the other, it was big bone, capable. I thought I looked homely and ugly, but I actually looked attractive. I thought I looked unhappy and depressed, but I actually looked content and happy. I do the same thing with my childhood photos. Like, I'll look and I'm like, wow, I was really happy. But then I'll look at photos from my 20s and I'm like, wow, I was really self-conscious about that. But I looked actually okay. I looked pretty cute in there. I looked so innocent. You have to silence the internal critic. And negative self-talk is driven by powerful toxic feelings. So they're using an example of Gian's internal dialogue. This is one of their clients. Negative self-talk. I hate these flabby thighs. It's driven by Gian's toxic feelings, self-hatred and disappointment. Negative self-talk. I am a fat pig. Is driven by Gian's toxic feelings, self-loathing, contempt, disgust. Negative self-talk. No one will ever love me because my body is so gross. Gian's toxic feelings, self-hatred, fear. Yeah, that's about it. So me, in the past, my negative self-talk was like, I'm too skinny. I need to gain weight. But that wasn't my own thoughts. It was me listening to dudes that barely could read. So now I'm perfectly fine. I mean, I did lose some weight, but that's because I was sick. So I'm sure it'll gain back naturally because my body wants to be at that weight. Another was my hair. But then I'm like, that was driven by people grabbing my hair, people arguing with me about my hair. It wasn't a problem that I had with myself. It came from other people's complaints or obsession with my hair. Like what they wanted me to flat iron it all the time. They wanted me to like do whatever with it all the time. They didn't want me to actually care for my own hair. They wanted me to damage it. And sometimes there were some beauticians that would purposely damage my hair. They'd rip through it. They like beat my scalp. Like, I'm not about to go through this abuse. So you can always change your negative self-talk to positive self-talk. Positive. Get a grip. Some people are worried and starving, and you're worried about your thighs. What are you really feeling? And the feelings that are driven by objectivity and loving feelings are concern, tough love. Positive other talk. Calling yourselves names is disrespectful. You don't do that to anyone else. Name one of your good qualities and take credit for it. And then it's driven by the loving feelings of compassion, genuine love, dismay, and outrage. She also talks about nutrition, having a healthy relationship to food, enhancing your sensuality. The next chapter, and I'll end with this chapter, is getting off the emotional tightrope. What is the emotional tightrope? Emotional balance is the ability to restore calm when you are upset. Get going when you are in a slump and retain a capacity to think even in the face of intense emotions. Emotional balance lets you know that you are vulnerable to losing control. It helps you know how to bring yourself back from the edge. It allows you to have a healthy relationship with your emotional life. And it talks about a girl named Nicole who's in 10th grade that would always run away from home and all sorts of things. She would just explode in explosive behavior and threaten to just end her own life. She lacked the skills for calming herself. So when something bad happened to her, she had no effective way to cope. She would lose control of herself at least one night a week. She's only 16 years old. But she still had to learn how to soothe herself. And she did. How she learned how to soothe herself was she learned what the name of her feelings, how to decode and peel off the layers of her feelings. Once she learned which intensity scale her feelings were on, she was able to intervene in the moment between feeling bad and doing something out of control. She learned to get out her checklist and measure how much she was feeling a particular emotion. Confused was 5, angry was 6, and fearful was 10. The simple recognition of what her feelings were helped to calm her down. I used to be on an extreme emotional tightrope. I've gotten better, but I used to be. I used to not be able to control my reactions. Sometimes I'd burst into tears. Sometimes I would just go off. But now, at this point, I'm learning how to calm myself down. How I've learned how to calm myself down is when somebody makes me angry, or when somebody does something that kind of upsets me, I tell myself, that's not my problem. They are projecting their problems onto me. They are projecting their thoughts about themselves onto me. And it's been a little bit harder these past 2 years because I have been like physically attacked on the street by strangers. And I recently, maybe a week ago, had a harassment case at Family Dollar where the man like grabbed my hand and said I was a lesbian because I wouldn't go out with him. But even then, okay, you don't know how to handle rejection. That's not my problem. You grabbed my hair, like that happened maybe 3 weeks ago. A guy grabbed my hair on the train and then smelled my hair. I could have turned around and slapped him, but I was outnumbered by other dudes. I knew if I said something, which has happened before, these guys weren't going to do anything because the other 3 times they didn't do anything. But I didn't stay angry that long because that's not my problem. Your low self-esteem and trying to find yourself in other groups of people is not my problem. I'm okay with myself. I'm okay with the body I was born in. I don't need to be racially mixed with somebody else in order to feel good about myself. That is your problem, which you are projecting onto me. Therefore, I have no reason to be angry, even though I rightfully could be angry. This isn't for everybody, because there are times you do have to stand up for yourself and maybe, hit somebody upside the head, but that's just another thing. That's just another situation. But in most cases, like even if it's words, you can't take it personally, because that hate didn't generate out of your body. That hate didn't generate out of your mind. You have to learn that feelings and emotions are just indicators of what you're actually going through. Like, if you don't acknowledge them, you can say, yes, I see you. I see that you're angry. And then decide a positive thing to do about it. You could either be angry and use your fists, or you could be angry and just use your mind. This has been my experience for the past 2 years so far. I've had one person in my life who's been like telling me to just like off myself, and calling me stupid, calling me retarded, and saying I'm worthless and saying I'm valueless on a frequent basis. And at first it bothered me for the first year and a half. But now I've gotten to a point where I realized this person was speaking out of fear. They were afraid of my own personal greatness. They saw what I could not see, and they had to try to extinguish the light in me in order to make themselves feel better, so I would not surpass them. Think about a person in your life right now who put that thought that did not belong to you in your mind, and think, Why did they do that? And disown that thought. It's not yours. It's somebody else implanted in your mind. You are the one who creates who you are. You are the one who knows you are beautiful. You are the one who knows that you are valuable. Your feelings are valid. You're not a robot. An exercise that she has in here. Exercise 1, the container. While sitting comfortably in a chair, imagine a container that is about 2 feet away from you. Imagine the container in 3-dimensional space. Imagine the color and texture of the container. See the container in great detail. Then you select the feeling you want to feel less of, and you take 70% of that feeling and transfer it into the container as you count from 1 to 3. Now see if you want more relief from the feeling. If you do, take 70% of that feeling and transfer it into the container, just as you did before. Now in your imagination, send that container down into the molten core of the earth, where the feeling will be instantly transformed into energy that is useful and life-giving. Be sure to keep some of all of your feelings, even the ones you don't like. We need to have some of our feelings on hand to protect and defend ourselves and to provide information necessary for our best functioning. So, to even further expand on what I was saying, those feelings don't belong to you. Some feelings do belong to you. You have a right to be angry. You have a right to be sad. You have a right to be happy. You have a right to be annoyed. Because some of these feelings will actually protect you. I currently have focused on trying to be more self-caring to myself, which I think you should do as well if you haven't already. Ignoring the noise coming from people who just hate me or hate anyone who reminds me of somebody that they know. At this current state in society, or at least in the community, there's just like a lot of Black women hate. And I'm just saying this because I'm living in a Black woman's body. There's a lot of Black women hate. I've been attacked for being a Black woman, and I only know it because they mentioned me being a Black woman in my attacks. I had a man try to push me in a trash can maybe 6 months ago and say, "You black bees," and I've had a lot of guys from my community just hate me for being a Black woman. And I've had to personally protect myself because most of the attacks were physical. If they weren't grabbing my hair, they were throwing something at me or trying to grab me off the street or trying to push me in a trash can. Just me existing. But that's not my problem. It is my problem, but it's not my problem. I have a right to be angry. I have a right to be sad about what happened to me. Just like you have a right to be angry and sad if something happened to you. But I refuse to let their hatred for me be internalized within me. That is not my problem. I love being myself. I love being in my skin. I love being a Black woman. I love my hair. I love how I think. I love my brain. I love my body. There's nothing you can say to make me hate my body and my mind and being a Black woman. It's not going to change. I don't accept any projection from anybody. I don't accept any of these podcasters trying to make people go off and off me. I just don't accept it. Because I am valuable. And if they don't recognize it, then oh well, they're missing out. But yeah, this book is really good. I wish I could have gone into detail of all the things, even though I kept, chattering the whole time. But I hope some of what I said helped you. You can get it for yourself and practice the exercises if you wish. I'm going to leave you with a really powerful affirmation, which is the last chapter called The Future of Your Self-Esteem. And it says, project yourself into the future and then make it happen. The purpose of this exercise is to help you experience exactly how you will feel when you have found your life purpose and you are living your dream. It is not necessary for you to know your life purpose in order for you to be able to successfully complete this exercise. Put the following script on the tape and listen to it at least once a day. So you can either do that, or you can close your eyes after you read each line and just absorb what's being said into your soul. So I'm going to read it to you. I am looking at myself after I have given voice to my heart's desire and discovered my life's purpose. I am looking at myself living my life purpose. Time is immaterial, an hour, a day, 6 months, a decade. It doesn't matter. I am looking at myself from the outside. I can see myself clearly, but I am outside of myself. But now there is an explosion inside, only I can't hear it, but I feel it. And now I am myself, having and living my life purpose. I am comfortable inside my body. I open my eyes, and the colors around me are rich and vibrant. I feel peacefully and completely at home with myself. It is as though I have finally come home. I feel completely connected to myself from the tips of my toes to the top of my head. I am breathing deeply and evenly without any effort at all. I am in the flow of being. I am completely myself. Something makes me want to laugh or smile. I don't know what it is, but I feel good. I feel completely and totally my full, complete self. I feel connected to the world, to plants, to the sky, and to the universe. I feel peaceful. I feel whole. I feel content. I feel complete. I feel. So that is our ending affirmation. And as far as my closing words, if you are a woman, you're valuable. If you were one way and you don't want to be that way anymore, you don't have to be that way anymore. If you are wild and you want to just be like, okay, I'm going to be a nun, you can do that. I'm not going to judge you. I'm not going to judge your wild past. If you were a nun and you want to just have a little fun, I don't judge you either way. All I want you to remember is that you are valuable at every stage of your life, at every age of your life. You are beautiful in every stage of your life, whether you're a little newborn baby or whether you're a 180-year-old woman with a crookedy crane and one tooth, you are valuable. Don't listen to the society, because the society is fickle. It's always changing and it doesn't know what it wants. But you were created by God, and God knew what it wanted you to be, and that is what your soul wanted you to be too. Only develop yourself in the best and healthiest way that is for you. Know that even if nobody else thinks that you are valuable, you are still valuable. Even if they try to throw a diamond in a trash can, that doesn't make you any less of a diamond. You're not a slave to your past. You are not a slave to people's projections. You have to love yourself, even if you don't feel like you are lovely. Your stretch marks are beautiful. Your missing arms and your missing legs, they're beautiful too. Your hair is beautiful. Your alopecia is beautiful too. I think you are wonderful, magnificent, intelligent. Your dreams are recognized, even if nobody recognizes them. You can go further in life. You can go anywhere you want. You can be anything that you want to be. Don't be enslaved to somebody else's script. Live the life that you were meant to live and live to your fullest purpose. And that's all I have to say to you. I hope that you all enjoyed this book, and happy reading. Bye-bye.